Good morning to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, online viewers, TV 15 viewers, and St. Martin Gov Radio 1079, FM radio, and respective radio stations island-wide. I'm Charity Dunker, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. At this time, I'd like to invite and welcome the Honorable Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, Dr. Anders Rudolph Samuel, to address you. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning, Ms. Dunker, and good morning to PM and my colleague. Good morning to DCOM, the media, and to the people of St. Martin. A blessed day. Today and yesterday, the Union of the Teachers have asked to call their members to a meeting. And that means that we have a disruption in the school, in the education, and I find this to be very unfortunate. I find it to be unfortunate because I received a letter from the Y2 on the 11th of January. I received a letter on the 13th of January. The letters indicated that the Y2 would like to meet with me on the 20th of January. I met with the Y2 on the 20th of January. Together, we went through both letters. One letter dealt specifically with the amount of vacation days that teachers were getting per year. The Y2 indicated that we were still using the laws of the Netherlands Antilles to determine the vacation days. We were able to explain to the Y2 that that is not the case and that we would send him, the president, the information regarding the vacation days, and this information was sent to the union. The other letter dealt with things like COLA and increments and cost of living adjustment, COVID frozen increments from pandemic, and also regarding the vacation pay. I explained to Mr. Johnson, the president of the Y2, that there are two types of issues that we have. We have issues related to education, which we, the Y2 and the Minister of Education, can handle. But then we have issues that are related, let us say, between the Council of Ministers, the CCSU, and the unions. Those issues, as I explained to him, not only on the 20th of January, but previously also, the Minister of Education cannot separate the CCSU issues and discuss them bilateral with the union, the Y2 alone. So in that letter, because the Y2 requested multiple ministers to meet in that meeting, I indicated to the Y2 that that request for a meeting would be sent on to the Secretariat, so via the Secretariat to the Council of Ministers in order to plan a meeting. There was also mention of some issues in two schools. So I requested from the president of the union that he would provide me, the Minister of Education, per school, what the issues are, and then we can look at them together. I have not received that information back from the president of the Y2. You cannot be striking and saying there are all kind of issues and that minister knows about them, but in the meeting of the 20th of January, where you promised to provide the Minister of Education per school the issues, so whether or not minister knew them, you, the union, has brought them up, and I said, okay, can you bring them? And then we can sit and look at them. There was a meeting last year with the union And the meeting was called by me, the Minister of Education, because there was a problem with the function book. In that meeting, we agreed on a three-phase approach. Phase one, we would approve the function book as is. And then phase two, we would make the corrections. And then phase three, together with the stakeholders, we would look into the remunerations of teachers and, future remunerations, because time have changed and there are positions within schools and education where certain adjustments would need to be made in the function book. Those are agreements that are on the table. On the 20th of January, the union did not bring those issues on the table. So the issues that the union is striking about today is yet unknown from the union to the minister. If the union can say, I sat with minister and we went through these issues and we are at a deadlock, right? Then I can say, okay, we have an issue. I heard things about school repairs. I heard things about school materials. School repairs is an issue we have been talking. I don't believe that a union would strike on school repairs. This is from since EMA. It's ongoing. We know that process. So I would hope, because I understood that there is a request for a meeting, and I would hope that the union would bring with them the issues that they would like to discuss, one, with the Minister of Education, and two, the issues that falls under the CCSU. For now, I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Anders Rurao-Samuel of ECYS, for your opening remarks. At this time, I'd like to welcome the Honorable Minister of General Affairs and also Prime Minister, Sylveria Jacobs, to address you. Good morning, Prime Minister.
Thank you. Good morning to you, of course, Ms. Dunker. Good morning to my colleagues. Good morning to the members of the media and the press. And of course, a hearty good morning to the listening and viewing public, to the people of St. Martin. As we continue into the month of February, you know this is a very important month of acknowledgement of our history, our heritage, as well as the month of love. I did briefly touch on it last week. I encourage all to be open in your sharing of kindness, love, and appreciation for each other despite what we may be going through, and especially because of what we're going through. I think compassion, in the very least, can be shown, putting ourselves in the shoes of another, and making sure that we connect and bond throughout the generations to ensure that our heritage is passed on, and we recognize the great strides we have made as a people throughout history. Continue to do that. I would like to also add that the Minister has touched on some of the points. I have also been in contact and been contacted by the Y2 Union requesting the meeting. As he mentioned, several other ministers as well. We're looking into the feasibility. We responded to that letter notifying that there were meetings being held with the members yesterday. I requested that the meetings be put on hold until we can meet and dialogue. Similarly to Minister ECYS, in that I feel that before we take actions, we must exhaust all options for dialogue. And for sure, I have not had the opportunity to sit or been requested to sit, and that was refused or anything like that. So we did reach out, and the union did respond late yesterday evening that they were willing to meet, and we are trying to set up a meeting for this afternoon. So the time is not yet known, but hopefully by this afternoon, we'll be able to hear together with Minister ECYS and hopefully the other ministers that have been requested. It is a bit of a short notice to get everybody's schedule online, but we will definitely be there to be able to hear what the grievances are, especially as it pertains to where General Affairs is concerned, the legal position as civil servants. Teachers also fall within the LMA and therefore with civil servants as well. And I think the general public must understand that any issues related to the cost-cutting measures definitely are council-wide. They are CCSU agreements that were made, and they have been lifted. So I just want to clarify that in this press briefing here, we've said it before, we promised it in December, we did sign off on the national decrees to remove all of the cost-cutting measures. The last one was actually pertaining to government-owned companies and entities. That one was delayed until the end of January due to the fact that the amendments that had been brought forth in Parliament and approved had to go into effect before we could withdraw the temporary measures. That took place on the 29th of January, and the decree was signed shortly thereafter, the 31st, I believe, of January, to remove that one also retroactively to December 31st, 2022. Therefore, all three legislations that St. Martin had put in place, approved by Parliament, to enact the cost-cutting measures as a condition to receive liquidity support, let us not forget why this was done, have now been lifted as of December 30th, 2022. So therefore, for this year, 2023, all benefits, and I mean all, that had been in place prior to these cost-cutting measures are now back on the table for all civil servants, including teachers, including those in government-owned companies, entities, etc. However, the caveat is, and there has been a bit of a, let's call it, misunderstanding, that once the measures were lifted, that persons would get back what had been taken. The legislation was enacted for a period of time, and for the duration of that legislation, that increment, that vacation pay, that those vacation days that had been withheld cannot be given back based on the law. So we now move forward with the increments that will be due for 2023. Those will go into effect. And I must say, I've also received, in the same vein, a request for a meeting from the WICSU PSU to have discussions on the way forward with this, also about the cost of living adjustment, also known as COLA. There is also an advice from the P&O department in this regard. So this is on the, has the attention of government, but this will have serious budgetary effects. So my meeting with the WICSU PSU was very, very fruitful last week, and they have agreed to await the census that had to be finalized that would give the SER the information needed to do a proper cost of living assessment. That, of course, was not possible to be done before because we did not have the statistics, and that's why it's so important that all persons take part in the census that is being done so we have a clear picture of what the needs of St. Martin are, and make policies and procedures and programs and adjust our budgets and or our programming to be able to meet those needs. So that they expect to be finished by May, that we would have the results by May, June. And so the unions have given us that leeway to be able to determine when we would be able to have those fruitful discussions. And hopefully by the other unions hearing this now, they will know as well. But of course, we will be able to meet on the CCSU platform at a later date to discuss these matters. I would like to also touch on the fact that we all know that the royal family is here. They have left for St. Eustatius, and then they will be back and go to Saba tomorrow, after which they will conclude the visit to the Dutch Caribbean. The past 2 days have been an introduction to St. Martin for especially Her Royal Highness Princess Amalia, which they thought was a very fruitful 2 days, very busy meeting the people of St. Martin and ending with especially frontliners and contributors to society last evening. I would like to thank all of the persons who took part, who organized, especially I must shout out the committee itself, which are made up of civil servants for the most part, and the DCOM team that went above and beyond and are now, I'm sure, quite exhausted. Thank you for being here, especially this morning. One last announcement I would like to make is that together with the Ministry of ECYS, the Ministry of General Affairs is collaborating to add some spice, add some recreation to the lives of our employees by offering, it's called Work Vitality. A flyer was sent out and several persons have already registered for yoga classes right here at the building once per week, as well as fitness classes and the opportunity to have basketball sessions at our Melford Hazel sports facility right here down the road, Swalika Boulevard. So as of today, February 7th, the first classes will start. And this is a way that we feel as government that we lead by example in ensuring that not only do our employees come here and produce, but they have the opportunity to de-stress, to commune with each other, and also focus on wellness and health. This is in keeping with government's initiatives to promote health within the community. And so I encourage other employers to similarly make such activities available for their staff. We have a long way to go. There are many other issues, of course, that are pending, and they are all receiving also the necessary attention. And an employee satisfaction survey is also circulating, and I encourage all our civil servants to fill that in so we can address some of your challenges as well and make the workplace a better and more productive place for you. That is all for now, Charity, and I look forward to any questions from our media.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, for your opening remarks. Both the Minister of TIAT, Arthur Lombrics, and also Minister of VSA, Omar Otley, are present. However, will not be making any opening remarks, but are available for any questions that members of the media may have. If you have just joined us, you're watching the live Council Ministers Press Briefing for today, Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. Thank you for joining us. We now move on to the question and answer session, whereby at this time I'd like to welcome and invite member of the media, Ms. Bibi Hadshaw of SMN News. You have the floor.
Good morning, Charity. Thank you. Good morning, ministers and colleagues. My first question, Minister of Education, ECUIS, as well as the Prime Minister. I took note of the statements, the opening statements regarding the industrial action with the Y2 and public school teachers. Minister, are you saying that you're not aware that the public school teachers were not paid their vacation allowances, as well as the summer camp teachers, the teachers that work for summer camp? A few weeks ago, you mentioned an MBA was signed. Up to this morning, those teachers did not receive their monies. They did not receive their monies. And one of the things I want to ask, which is, I'd like to know what role this is playing. Here we have a school manager, is the president of the Y2. This morning, the students of that school does not have a manager. Yesterday, they did not. I raised this issue more than once in this briefing, and to date, this matter has not been dealt with. I would also like to know, that person, do you believe what's going on yesterday and today has any sort of political influence? This is a former minister. This is an active politician. Do you believe what is taking place today has any type of political influence?
All right, thank you, Bibi.
Thank you, Bibi, for the question. Indeed, you're indicating the National Summer School Program and the payment of those teachers. And I think 2 weeks ago that I was here at the press briefing, I did indicate that I signed the MBAs and that the LBAs were to go to the governor and that they have to come back. And we still awaiting that. You know, the week was very busy. So sometimes we have to have some understandings. There can be challenges. I also know that I have to wait until that come back to see what the situation is. If I have been trying my best on this, I indicated it. Some things are outside of my means, and when I get them back, I will check to see if there were still issues, and if they are, I will tell it to the public like it is.
Yeah.
The thing, Bibi, and to the public, I am Minister of Education. The first thing I would love to do is to pay my teachers. It would also make me happy. So it cannot be that I would be avoiding to pay the teachers. That is not the case. And this I have already tried to explain. Also in the meeting of the 20th of January, I discussed this matter with the Y2. So it is not that the Y2 was not informed. I thank you. The other questions about whether this is political, that is up to the president of the Y2. We here in the administration, we have more than one president of a union working, and there are certain rights that you have as a president of a union. We are not disputing those, and I understand the dual role, and we are looking into that. We have looked into it, and we continue to monitor the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and also thank you, Lyndon. Prime Minister?
Yes, I'd
Sorry.
only like to add one other thing. In my original statements, because the minister had gone on for a while, I didn't necessarily touch on all my notes, but as a former educator at heart, I have been in the trenches with them, also in actions. And so that's why I just wanted to reiterate that for me, it is important that people know their rights, but it's also important to know the process by which to exercise those rights. I feel wholeheartedly for the plight of all teachers who may not be in the best of circumstances. It is what actually motivated me to come and move forward and try to make a difference. And I did serve also as Minister of Education for some time. Since the pandemic, since the hurricanes, things have become even more difficult, and also for teachers and for teaching. And at the end of the day, we need to address whatever those needs are, whatever those concerns are, but we also have to be realistic. And so that's why it's important for me that a dialogue takes place and that there is an understanding of what is the issue. Because I was under the impression it was only about the cost-cutting measures, and now I'm hearing it's long-standing, outstanding issues. So for me, that dialogue needs to take place, and actions are in their place, but to me, it should be when dialogue has broken down. I am wholeheartedly standing with teachers in their plight, but I look forward to us resolving these matters across the table in an amicable and open, respectful manner. So let's look forward to that meeting happening this afternoon. The motivation of others, we cannot speak for, but indeed, I believe misinformation has played a rampant role in what was said specifically that I know about where it regards the cost-cutting measures and building expectation by teachers that those funds would be able to be recouped from the vacation pay that was taken. This was done so that we were able to pay everybody January 2021. As of December 20, there was no money to pay salaries, not to police, not to teachers, not to nurses, not to the hardworking civil servants in all our organizations. This is where this started. And I just want people to understand that we're still trying to ensure through different policies in TEAD, VROMI, and others to get the funds in to be able to live up to those obligations so that we do not have to ask for liquidity support again. I just needed to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Also, Minister ECYS, you'd like to add?
I would like to definitely say the following. As the Minister of Education, I have taken note, and it did not go unnoticed, the contribution of the teachers from since the hurricane and then during the pandemic, and all the issues that the teachers have stand up with education, with the students, with online and learning. All of these issues, all of the contribution of the teachers have not gone unnoticed by me as the Minister of Education. If there is a way that I can contribute in letting the teachers know that their work is respected and honored, I will continue to do my best to find a way to do that. But it isn't so that it is gone unnoticed, and I would like the teachers to know, just as I explained before, and I explained this to the union, I too, me, the minister, I too have been a teacher. I have also been a member of the union, and I understand the situation with the teachers, and I will always do my best to make teaching and their lives as pleasurable as possible. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Minister. Also, thank you, Bibi, for asking the first question. Mr. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and the ministers that are present here today. Question to Minister Lambrecht. Minister Lambrecht, the legacy of Theo Heiliger for beautifying the boardwalk, it should be, we should congratulate him. Minister, the King was here, and the amount of people that enjoy the boardwalk. We know years ago, the water used to just the breakers used to break on the building. But the amount of people was there reaching out to the King, and because of the boardwalk, it has enough capacity to hold people. And you are now, as the Minister of Tourism, when we will see more execution of Phillipsburg? Meaning the market have to rebuild. There have been conversation about the market and beautification of total.
Okay,
Phillipsburg.
Lyndon, allow the minister to answer, please.
Good morning, radio listeners. Good morning, my colleagues. Good morning to the media, anyone following on social media. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your question. The beautification of Phillipsburg, although I'm rushing to try to get attention to it, I am not rushing into the actual project of it because I am more reaching out to everyone that needs to be involved to also get their feedback. So I have reached out already to the SHTA, I have reached out to the IMA, I have reached out to the port, I have reached out to my fellow colleagues and ministries to get a better grasp of what needs to happen, get it more streamlined so we know exactly where we're going with it, and also to have all hands on deck when we do move forward with it. It is in the works. We are trying to finalize it. Already, if you look in Front Street, you'll see that a lot of cleanup has been going on. Dead trees have been removed. It is not just because of the King's visit, it is also because of what we are trying to accomplish for the long run of it. The beautification part where it comes to the market and other aspects of Phillipsburg, the market area, we are in collaboration with Royal Caribbean Cruises to assist us with that part of the project. Last week I spoken with them and followed up with the good works that Minister Otley has done in the past while he was in the seat. So we are trying to continue that with the proper continuation. It's going good so far. This week we should have another meeting scheduled with them, I believe on Friday, which we are going to finalize even further and try to round it off so we can actually start breaking ground and moving forward with the actual project. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Lambrechts, and also thank you, Lyndon. Mr. Jeffrey Saccharin, Dr. Sack of Island 92, you have the floor, and welcome.
Thank you so much. Good morning, ministers. It's nice to be here today. Madam Prime Minister, I would like to publicly thank you and your ministry, especially the fire department and our police department, for the work that they did to save the building where our station is homed, the FedEx building in town. So we've had this conversation privately with voice notes, but thank you publicly to the entire team. Along those lines, I wanted to ask you if you might be able to elaborate a little bit for us on the status of what happened at District 721 in the fire. It was pretty devastating to the community. People have asked over and over again, was there a legitimate building permit in place? Were there the proper fire permits in place for multiple kitchens? We've already seen demolition start to begin on the property. That would make one conclude that the forensic investigation is either complete or underway. What's the status of that investigation? If you could elaborate a little bit for us, Madam Prime Minister, I would certainly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sack. Indeed, I did receive your accolades, passed those on to the fire department, and I believe had the press corps also put that out in our pages on social media, recognizing the efforts to save the adjacent buildings, not just that one, but also on the other side, from further damage due to the fire. I have been in contact with our fire chief directly after the fire as well as thereafter, and they are busy finalizing the report. I have not yet received it, but once we've received it, of course, whatever necessary measures need to be taken will be taken. I don't know, pertaining to the permits, et cetera, if Minister Lambrix has any information on that.
Good morning, Dr. Stock. Good morning again to everyone. I briefly had a chance to dig into it a little bit. It's a little bit of a lot of digging to do. However, I do know that they had their operating license and these things in place from the 2014, if I'm not mistaken, signed by the then minister, Ted Richardson. When I looked a little further into it, with the addresses and with the whole situation, I believe it's a more of an internal kind of thing, because their address is also, I believe, your radio station's address and also the neighbor next door's address. So it falls back again to the internal of the family, which I don't want to call any names, but if I need to, I can. They probably have a little bit of an internal dispute, I believe, because if it's a family plot and one is a landlord for one section and another one is a landlord to the other section, yet they're right on top of each other, I would believe that they look out for their best interests and any issues that they might have in the future of making these decisions, which has not been done in this case because of what has transpired in the past with loud music and the neighbors not being happy, but the other neighbors also being family, not having an issue with it. So it's a little bit of a tricky, ticklish kind of thing, but I will keep going at it and see exactly what took place, how it took place. The building permit part, again, not sure if it was because of the family that the plot of land belongs to that they got that far in putting everything down, or that they didn't have a building permit, or that it fell back again to the land not being properly split, and issue with the address, and that is where the situation lies. But again, I will dig further into it, and I will let you know, probably by email or follow-up, so that you have the answer. Building permit part, maybe Minister Vrami, if you send that to him in writing, he can answer that part for you.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and also thank you, Minister Tiat and Jeffrey Saccharin, for your question. Moving on to Stephen Cerillion of PJD2, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Dunker. Good morning to you, Prime Minister. Good morning to you, ministers. My question is for the Minister of ECYS. Minister, obviously you have taken stock of the situation as it pertains to the teachers and the ongoing, not strike, they say, but general emergency meeting. Can you tell us as to how many schools and or students have been impacted negatively by the ongoing action of the union?
Thank you, Mr. Cerillion, for the answer. We have I have requested that an update be given to me in regards to this matter. One of the very important things is that schools are not allowed to send children on the road to go home. They are to keep the children that came to school in school, and if the parents can come for them or the bus can come for them, that is the method and the manner it should happen. You cannot have persons telling parents to go back with your children. You cannot have persons sending out messages that there won't be any school happening. That is definitely the responsibility of the Minister of Education. Sometimes we get people do things in the community and they probably think it's a joke or they can do this thing, but it's very, very wrong for messages to go out to the public that there is no school that did not come from the Minister of Education. So the assessment is being made. We are keeping an eye on the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and also thank you, Stephen Cerillion. Ms. Bibi Harshaw of SMN News, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. Prime Minister, I have a follow-up question for you before my second question. Last week, I asked you about the cost for that St. Martin has to endure for the royal visit. Can you tell us, quite elaborate, can you give us a figure, something that you budgeted for? And my second question is to the Minister of Health. During the royal visit to the St. Martin Medical Center, the director of SMMC informed to the royal family that there will be a 50% increase in the cost of the construction of the new general hospital, and it would take at least 3 to 4 years more before completion. Can you give us some more detailed information on the whole situation regarding the inflation? Because they're saying because of the war, because of the pandemic, et cetera, there's a 50% increase.
Thank you for your question, Ms. Cha. Good day to the viewing public, the listening public, the members of the media, Honorable Prime Minister, and my colleagues. Indeed, we all know, according to the Federal Reserve Economic of the U.S., there is a 40% increase on construction material. This data is there. This is factual data. Not only that, the increase in shipping costs, increase in container costs, all of this played a factor. And then, of course, it's no secret of the back and forth between the company itself and the SMMC, in which the letter of intent was signed. I have been updated that we have made progress with the lenders. We have received extra financial support from the Netherlands, who themselves dove into all the documents before investing more money, and did see that, okay, inflation is indeed a major factor of the increase. So we are in the final stages. Last I spoke to the board of directors, and the contract has been sent to, the amended contract has been sent to FinZo for finalization and agreement. As it pertains to the year, I was told that the projection is between Q4 2025 to start to move in. Finalization indeed can take a year after for finalization, which would be about 3 years indeed, 3 years from now.
Prime Minister, would you like to also make some remarks?
Yes, to Ms. Shaw's question, I am not at liberty to state yet what the cost of this trip is. It's not yet over. We did have a budget that was, of course, St. Martin has hosted the royal family before, and they went initially off of what they've done normally, and we did not approve the budget that was presented, so that was cut down considerably from what it used to be. But at this point, it is still ongoing, and there have been some unforeseen costs, so I'd like to wait until we have gotten to the end of it and have received a report before going into any details on that. But this is something that happens whenever they come, and so they base on basically what the plans were the last time as a starting point, and depending on the activities that are different from then and the cost involved, of course, for me, any penny spent on ensuring our culture and heritage is presented and in compensating artists, as we have had to do with every cultural manifestation we do for our own celebrations, is money well spent. So for that, for sure, I have zero regrets. And so I look forward to being able to share the information as we receive it.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and also thank you, Minister VSA and BB. Mr. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Question to Minister Adley. Minister Adley, recently, I should say recently, days ago, a gentleman, well, I'm speaking on the health aspect. The Minister of Justice is not here. But if for what reason any person being arrested by law enforcement officers and hand over to immigration and they have health issue, or they complain of being sick, what should be the step a law enforcement officer should take?
Okay, there's two things. One, we speak of the situation that happened. According to the prosecution in the investigation, there was no foul play deemed. That's what the report said. Okay, the Minister of Justice will go further into that. But I will speak general. Generally, if someone is detained and complain about health issues, it is the obligation of the officers to report these health issues, to monitor these health issues, and where assistance can be given to this person, whether it be, of course, mentally or especially physically. Health is something that we all should take serious to avoid such situations as not this, but such situation of anyone taken in and dying in a police cell. And I would encourage not only for the detainees, anyone that experience health issues, please contact your GP. We have a history of waiting, especially men, waiting until it's too late. We think that we can cure everything. But I would urge everyone at the sound of my voice, this is a segue. So please, if you have any health, medical issues, please do annual checkups. Take care of yourself. We need you. St. Martin needs you. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Minister, and also thank you, Lyndon. Jeffrey Saccharin of Island 92, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Dunker. I appreciate it. Madam Prime Minister, there was a really interesting editorial today in the Daily Herald, all about St. Eustatius sometime in the next 6 months reaching 50 to 60% of their energy being produced by solar. We've talked about this for a really long time. Even Curacao and Aruba are taking a different approach with renewable energy using wind. So the question becomes, when will we finally see a strategy here on St. Martin, and beyond the strategy, some action where we have net metering, where we see solar being encouraged, we see wind being encouraged? It's time. It will save everybody a fortune, especially in the times of inflation that the Minister of VSA just spoke about. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Thank you, Dr. Salk, for that question. Indeed, just recently, not last week, maybe the week before, the Council of Ministers approved the roadmap of Green Market and gave the green light for the investors to be brought in. GB is on board. There's the tripartite between government, Grid Market, and GEBE. The energy policies in its final stages as well. That is also the same group that is working on it together with the Ministry of General Affairs, Department of Buck, to get that finalized. And so the first phase, actually, so the strategy is there, it's approved, and now the financing, which has been, let's call it, lined up already, is on board, and it's just to bring it in so that we can get moving. The projection of the plan will take place at some point, and we will ensure that that is publicized so that people can see that there is work taking place to prepare for the transition to renewable energy. This is one of our goals in our National Development Vision. We've been working on it for several years, actually. So it's good to know not only are we talking it, but we're actually working it out. So hopefully, the first phase is all solar, and it's a 3-phase plan. I wouldn't go into the details here. I would really like to do a press conference that is dedicated directly to that with all the stakeholders in that meeting. There's been great collaboration with the Ministry of TEAT and VROMI on this as well. All 3 ministers have to sign off for it to move forward. This has been done, and so we're looking forward to the next phase. And as soon as we're ready to present that to the public, this will be done. But GEBE is also playing a key role. Just recently in the discussions, actually with the royal family, the discussions came up about the wind aspect. That forms part of the longer vision. And now, especially because we are in, Aruba and Curacao are not in a direct hurricane belt, we have to take into consideration the feasibility, the longevity, the sustainability of whatever we bring into our system. And we're also looking, and Minister of TEAT can tell you about that, ways that we can diminish the heavy impact of cruise on the environment. So also looking at ways for the ships to be able to plug in on St. Martin is part of the plan as well. So we are well on the way in terms of the vision. We now have the strategy, and investors are next to come on so that we can move forward, as well as other streams of funding.
As a follow-up, Madam Prime Minister, if I may, will the strategy and the actual plan and the implementation include some form of net metering for existing the renewable clients?
So I can't go into the details as to, on the GEB side, exactly what will be happening, but definitely when those presentations are made, it will be made with all stakeholders involved so that we'd have a clear picture on how it will translate to reality for the people of St. Martin. And I'd like to take this moment, if I can, to commend all of the students who took part in the science fair. So many of them had brilliant ideas to save our environment and were right in line with government's vision to diminish use of single-use plastic and other harmful materials. And so I take this time to encourage the general public that each individual can make a difference by minimizing, reducing their use, refusing to use certain single-use plastic, and encouraging the places you go to already start to transition. The law is there. We're still taking the necessary steps for the enforcement. But once we start to change our mindset, there will be probably no need to fine anyone in the long run. So let's make the difference individually in our lives and in our homes and in our businesses so that we can save this environment, not just for us, but for our future generations, for the animals in our ecosystem, the plants as well that make up our health system. So when we knock out the turtles, the birds, the sharks, we're messing with our own livelihood. So let's all do this together. Thank you.
All right, and thank you, ministers, and also thank you, Jeffrey Saccharin. Mr. Stephen Cerulean of PJD2, you have the final question.
Thank you, Ms. Dunker. My question is for the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, I think it was last month, the Ministry of General Affairs launched the civil servant employee satisfaction survey. Can you provide an update as it pertains to that for us?
Yes, that was one of my last statements made today. That is still being finalized, so we don't have the results of that yet, but I believe during this month or before the end of this month, we should be able to have those results. If not by then, by the early March.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and also thank you, Stephen Cerulean, and all the members of the media. Honorable ministers of the council, members of the media, online viewers, radio listeners, this brings us to the end of the live council ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. For rebroadcast, do tune into St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM and also Telems TV Plus. And for video on demand, also log on to the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin YouTube channel, Government of St. Martin, and also TV 15. On behalf of the Department of Communication, I'm Charity Dunker. Thank you very much for tuning in.